So it's been a week since I bought this bike, and I think I'm ready to share my first impression. It's the first e-bike I've ever owned, and to put it shortly, I loved it. So, as you can see, it has 14% battery left, and that allows me to go 88.8 kilometers. I generally bought it to commute to work, which is about 3.54 kilometers away. And recently they started lots of constructions on the way, blocking the shortest route and the best route. So I had to go up the hills, the short ones, but quite steep. And that is exactly when and why I decided to buy an electric bike. And I was pretty impressed on how it managed to climb all the hills, because when I was reading the comments, I was a bit scared about people saying that the belt and absence of gear shifting options is not good enough for the hills, and this is not optimal bike for those tasks. But I would like to say that I barely ever had to switch to higher than the first setup to climb even up the hills. So that's more than enough for some short, moderate, and even not moderate hills. And I love how long the battery lasts. Basically, I think at this rate, it's enough to charge it once every 2 weeks, and it charges very quickly overnight, which is very nice. I did have to replace the seat because, well, I am rather skinny and I needed something softer for myself, something more comfortable. While we're still on the topic of comfort, another thing to mention is the absence of the front suspension, which is a very common thing for all the commuters of this class, because, well, yes, most of the way is in asphalt, so you don't have that many bumps. Of course, you do feel it a little bit more on the curbs, but that happens very rarely, and to be honest, the feeling definitely just dissolves in the overall excitement of the electric bike feeling. I thought that the main advantage would be how easy it is to climb the hills, although surprisingly, after 1 week, the main advantage for me was the speed at which you do it, because on the regular bike I could just drop the gears to the first and climb the hill as well, with, well, more or less the same effort, but doing this at 25 kilometers per hour is just an amazing feeling. The second one is starting, because it always takes some time to gain speed, and with this bike it just takes a couple of seconds. You basically start from 1 to 25 in a couple of seconds, and that's an amazing feeling with very little efforts. Also, another thing that I was very worried about is that with the belt and without the gears, once the battery gets drained completely, the bike will become a burden and almost impossible to drive. However, I do have to confess that I spent probably half the time biking without battery getting involved, so without any help from the motor. I just biked myself, and it was completely okay on the flat and surface and even some very slight uphills. Of course, I would not go up those hills. I didn't want to go even with a regular bike without the battery, but otherwise it's really not a problem. Considering the weight of the bike, it is really not an issue at all. Actually, I just realized that on the flat surfaces I can easily go 30 with this bike, which was not possible for me with my old 20 kilogram regular trekking bike. So on this bike, with more or less the same efforts, without motor, on the flat surface I can do even better than on the heavier trekking bike. Well, I think that's it for the first week, and we'll see how it goes further.